Hey, I'm Paul Stevenson from VRP Rocks, and you've joined me for another fantastic My Five favorite. Now, if you're a regular viewer, you'll know that I love these because we all have our own favorites. Of course we do, but we don't often get to hear what the stars themselves enjoy the most from their own back catalogues. So that's where this comes in. And today I'm joined by a man who's worked on thousands and thousands of recordings from some of the biggest names in the world of music. It's just incredible to look through. So, welcome to VRP Rocks once again, Mr. Nathan East.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining me again, Nathan. I'm looking forward to hearing what you've selected because, as I said, you've worked with so many different people from so many different genres, from Barry White to Whitney Houston, from Daft Punk to Phil Collins and Eric Clapton and everyone in between as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you have selected amongst your five favorites. So kick us off. What's number one on your list?
Wow, and that's tricky because I should have asked if I could have named 10 because there's so many fun ones. But first thing comes to mind is Chinese Wall, Phil Collins. I mean Phil Collins and Philip Bailey. The Philip Bailey's album, but that's where Easy Lover, you know, was born, and so that's one of my favorite records still to this day.
So let's dive into that a little bit deeper then. Philip Bailey, that record that you said still holds such a dear place in your heart after all these years. So talk to me about the recording. Where were you in? I think you were in the UK, weren't you, when you were doing that one? So talk to me a bit more about the story behind this one.
Yes, it was my first trip to London, and Phil Collins was going to be the producer, and Philip Bailey and I were friends. And so Philip said to Phil, "Oh, I'd like to bring my buddy Nate over to play bass on it." So that was the first time I got a chance to meet Phil Collins, who the week we recorded, he had his first number one with Against All Odds. And so there we were in the studio in kind of celebratory mode anyway, working with a guy that's number one on the charts. And we really had a chance to learn each other's playing and make music for 2 weeks. We were in the studio every day, recording the project, and I just love the way it came out.
Fantastic stuff. Now, you said it's your first trip to London. What did you make of London during that time in the 80s?
It was fantastic. We stayed out in Guildford, and so I got to every morning I got up and walked out in the countryside and just was just so intrigued by how beautiful it was. And then coming into London, and the studio was right down the street from the BBC Theater, and it was just it all seemed like very very special and new to me. And going down the King's Road and just going around and seeing Harrods and, and how cool it was. Just really cool for somebody who's seen it for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of making the record, then you said you're in the studio putting the songs together for a couple of weeks, and we've heard the story the last time you were on about the big hit, obviously. And you said that you made that there and then. It was almost off the cuff, wasn't it? You sat by the piano and played that. So in terms of the other songs on that album, did Philip come with songs in mind, or was it something that you guys put together all in that space of 2 weeks?
Well, there were a collection of songs already written, and so we just had to execute those. And so that was most of the 2 weeks. But then we got to the end of the second week, and Philip really was still looking for the single. But the album is packed with wonderful songs and wonderful music.
Yeah, absolutely. Good choice for number one. Number two was an interesting choice as well. Fourplay. This is a group that you've played with for many, many years, released many records as well. So talk to me first of all about the band, how the band came together.
Yeah, and we probably have over a dozen, maybe 13,
Yeah.
14 records out since we started in 91. And we were in the studio with Bob James in 1990 recording an album called Grand Piano Canyon of his on Warner Brothers Records. The band was me, Lee Ritenour, Harvey Mason, and Bob. And the quartet had a very unique sound when we were in the studio. And Bob James at the time was an executive at Warner. And so he kind of had this vision. He says, "Man, this would be a fun band. Would you guys interested?" And everybody said, "Yeah." And so we got a deal signed, and they hadn't heard a note, but we were signed to Warner Brothers Records, and we each started writing songs and brought songs to the table, rehearsed them, and went in the studio, and that's what we came up with. And very, very proud of that record.
Yeah, I can imagine. Is that the first time that you kind of had a band under your own name in effect?
Pretty much. That was the first kind of idea of me having a solo kind of career, that I call that my first solo album, you know.
So talk to me about some of the songs on that record then, the first record that you're so proud of. I mean, are the ones that you wrote in particular, is the ones that stand out to you the most that holds a special place in your heart?
Well, yeah, most of them, it starts with a song called Bally Run that Bob and Lee collaborated on, that just really has a lot of energy to it and really good lines. And um, then my contribution, I co-wrote with my brother Marcel, a song called 101 Eastbound, and that's been a favorite of ours to play over the years as well. Yet again, just another fun song that highlights the talents of the band. Uh, we we El DeBarge was a good friend of mine at the time, so we asked him to sing a song called "After the Dance" on the record, and that turned out to be another really good song that a lot of people enjoyed hearing. Um, and our next album called Between the Sheets, Shaka Khan and I did a duet. So
Oh, wow.
it kind of, yeah, so it kind of went from that first to the second, and those records are just so much fun for me to this day to still listen to.
Absolutely. And a good choice for number two. So let's move on to number three.
Nita
Anita, tell me
Baker.
about this.
She first of all, I did every album from her very first one called Songstress. She has one of those voices that she only has to sing one note and the whole world knows who it is. Incredible, incredible singer. And this particular album called Compositions was like a performance. She didn't want it to be like takes where you could go back and punch in and overdub. She wanted it to be a
Okay.
performance by all of us, one take, top to bottom. If you made a mistake, we start over, So that's a challenge in and of itself. But the result is just something that sounds very live, and the energy, you can just hear the magic of having to just make a take, like get through the whole song. And all the songs are great. It's beautifully recorded, and like I said, we just had a lot of fun playing on it.
And when you talk about doing something like that in one take, I mean, do you get to express yourself then? Because you try different things when you're doing something like that.
Right. You're constantly kind of trying to see if this is going to be something that works. Um, and so some things work, some things don't, but it's nice to be in a group where you can get a feeling of what it's like instantly, without because a lot of times now, everybody has a studio in their bedroom and they just go in and it's kind of like, to me, it loses a little bit of that magic that happens when you have musicians in a room playing together.
Yeah, it's very true. A lot of things like that happened, especially following lockdown and things like that, didn't it? Where a lot of people were passing files across the internet. So it is nice. I've spoke to many musicians who say that the last few years it's been all about getting in the studio and recording together and feeling that vibe amongst each other.
Right. To do something we did so much that we almost took for
Yeah.
granted for so many years, and then all of a sudden it was snatched away from us. Now when you go in the studio, everybody says, "Wow, look, hey, we're all in the room." Like it's a brand new concept almost, and so we appreciate it that much more.
Lovely. And in terms of working with Anita Baker, I mean, when you're in there and in the studio and you're listening to a voice like that, is it difficult sometimes to concentrate on what you're doing when you've got someone like that in your ears?
I mean, it's just like you're always just marveling at how
Yeah.
how great she is. And and literally, because sometimes the singer's not even in there with you, so
Of
you have
course.
to imagine what it's going to be like. So you have to play thinking, well, I don't want to be in the way of a lyric or something. But when they're there, it all comes together, and you paint around the lyrics, and you all respond to each other. And she's as much a musician as the guys playing, if you're playing keys or guitar, whatever. And so it's really inspiring to work with somebody who has such an understanding about what they want.
Phenomenal. Great choice. Great choice. I love that one. Let's move on to number four then. This is an interesting one. So give me a little bit of background on this one.
Yeah, the Wayne Shorter was, first of all, he and Herbie Hancock used to do these gigs together. And one time they called me. the bass player had double booked himself, and they said, "Hey, can you come down?" So I got to come down and play a gig with them. Big fans of both of theirs, and so when Wayne Shorter went to record an album, he asked me to record it with him. And this album called Joyrider, his writing is so special and unique that, like, literally looking at the charts, I was just like focusing all my brain energy on trying to get these notes right because they're not just in the normal positions, and so really, really fun and enjoyed it, and extremely proud of what we got out of that record.
And in terms of something like that, then it sounds a lot more technical than perhaps being with another artist who wants you to just feel and come up with something like that. So how does that differ for you when you're working in the studio then?
Yeah, I think what happens is every instance is different. So every day you go to work and just approach it like a blank slate and just give your best. And in that particular instance, he writes these incredible notes, and it almost felt to me like it could be like a weather report kind of album, with that really cool feeling. I think Robin Ford was playing guitar, Patrice Rushen was playing the keys, and I think Terry Lynn Carrington was playing drums, and so it just had a very, very special, unique feel and sound to it.
And is there any
We did.
tracks in particular from Joyrider that really stand out to you that you enjoyed the most?
Well, Joyrider is one of the tracks that I like, the title cut. And there's a few. It's been about 40 years, so I'd have to look at the cover to see, but there's a few that I don't remember the actual titles for, but a lot of it on there was really, really cool.
Fun times in the session, and it came out with some fantastic music. So another good choice. And then we move on to number five. And this one, as we said before, was it 30 million records sold? It became an iconic release. MTV Unplugged, 1992, Eric Clapton. So silly question. Why did this make your top five?
I mean, yeah, silly question. No, no. I mean, obviously, just the spirit of that album was so unique, especially at the time where like you're playing unplugged. Who unplugs in a rock and roll band? But that's basically what happened. And then to put a different spin on all those songs, Layla and obviously Tears in Heaven was one of those that just resonated with people around the world. And so it was just the intimacy of the whole project really made it feel good and special.
So how did you go about trying to reimagine these? Because something like Layla is one of the most iconic rock tracks of all time, isn't it? So when you're sitting there to do it acoustically, unplugged completely, well, how do you guys sit there and go, how do we make this work for the acoustic? How do we make it different to make it stand out?
Right. So about a week before, we got together and rehearsed, and I think prior to that, Eric and Andy Fairweather Lowe got together and we're fooling around with different tempos and ideas for the song. So once we all got together to rehearse, it was sort of one of those, what if we did this, or what if it went like this? And at rehearsal, the luxury of just trying and saying, okay, that works, that doesn't work. It's just a lot of fun to go, and it was like going into the lab and experimenting.
That's a great way of putting it. And in the actual recording of it itself, you spoke about how there was a select handful of people in the room, maybe 100 or so friends and things like that around the place. But in terms of the feeling in the place at the time of recording, I mean, what was that like? Was it because when I listen to that, the hairs stand up on the back of my neck. So what was it like being in that moment and playing those songs?
Pretty much the same too, and you know, matter of fact, I just recently saw they aired the 30th uh, anniversary edition in the cinema, of Unplugged. So I got to take the family to see it. They hadn't seen it, my kids, and it was really great. And I saw Michael Kamen, who conducted and wrote a lot of the score, the late great Michael Kamen, in the audience, and so it's a unique feeling of friends, and then trying these arrangements for the first time and to see if it clicks, and just a really, really like a warm fuzzy feeling that was in the room, and to record it without the pressure of, oh, this has to be this. And a matter of fact, it was one of those things. I think Eric may have said to the manager, is it good enough?
Oh, wow.
To really, because it was just so casually approached and with a nice casual atmosphere, not a bunch of takes where you, okay, let's do it again and again. Just play these songs that we rehearsed and next.
Phenomenal stuff. Absolutely phenomenal. And from is it good enough to selling 30 million? I mean, what was your impression when it did go boom, when the world did embrace it so well?
Well, it's always, and you never can predict anything like
Yeah.
that, but it's always a very special feeling to know that what you did is so well received. It's like um, it's the big payoff for what you try to put something in there that's going to resonate with people, but you just never know. And so for that many people to jump on board and embrace this record was very special, and yeah, an honor to be a participant.
Absolutely. And we're going to make a special allowance for a number six on this special My Five favorite. And we're going to talk about your newest album as well, because it's a special one. It's you and your son. And it's called Father Son. So give us a quick run through about what this new record's about.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that's probably nearest and dear to my heart of anything that I've ever done. My son Noah has become my favorite musician. He plays piano and Hammond B3 in the organ, and has amazing ears. And so we went into the studio. We booked a couple of weeks and went in and had the best time. Some of the songs are just duo, piano and upright bass.
Oh,
And
nice.
then we added our friend Donald Barrett. We stole him from Lady Gaga and from the Oscars and a bunch a bunch of things that he does. But he came and played drums in that first song we played together, um, called Postludium, which was one of Noah's pieces that he used to work on in his piano play. Um, we just the chemistry was just perfect, and Donald played the perfect parts, and then so we did some more songs, and then we just kind of started making this, and Mr. Clapton has played guitar on a couple songs, and we have some wonderful guests that came in. So we're very, very, very happy with the way it came out, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with the world.
Absolutely. And that's out April 18th. So make sure you pre-order a copy if you haven't done so already. Well, Nathan, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing your selections. I love the breadth of them and the different styles that you've chosen. And obviously we could have you back many more times to hear many more stories as well, because your catalog is insane. But thank you so much for joining us here on VRP Rocks.
Well, thanks. And by the way, there's one if I was going to add too, is I forgot my first solo album. I really enjoyed too, on Yamaha, and so it's just called Nathan East. But I had a lot of fun on there. There's people, Michael McDonald and Stevie Wonder and Sarah Bareilles, and a lot of my friends are on there. So I have to put that in the batch.
There you
Like I
go.
said, I'd have to go for 10 next time.
That's it, yeah. My 5/7 favorites. There we go. Thank you so
Right.
much, Nathan. It's been a wonderful pleasure speaking with you.
It's a pleasure. Thanks again.